Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome once again to another beautiful CryptoManiacs podcast on the glorious Hive blockchain. We're streaming everywhere. We're back. We're streaming on YouTube. We're streaming on Twitter. We're streaming on the Zuckerberg book. But also, more importantly, we're being uploaded to 3Speak. You speak, I speak, we all speak for 3Speak. You like that? I should do the jingles for the no? No?
That's wonderful. I love your creativity. I mean, Raven really inspired you. You
Oh,
put that to some music, and I think you might have a hit on your hands.
I am definitely inspired, sir.
What
Uh,
did you think of the show on Tuesday? I thought
it
she
was
brought up some very good points.
it was great. It's funny because on Wednesday night we do our consulting where we get a mastermind group together, CTP community, and one of the books I recommended because people were kind of just curious about crypto and smart contracts and stuff, and I said, go read Don Tapscott's Blockchain Revolution, and I told him it's just like this amazing introduction to smart contracts to really understand it. But one of the chapters in the book concentrated completely on music, saying music on the blockchain is where it's going to go. Like this industry was slapped around with the whole Napster stuff and file
Hmm.
sharing. It's going to get empowered now from like the artists, not necessarily the record labels. I mean, the record labels will be able to navigate, I think, but generally it's going to be the artists themselves that will have control over their own music and their
I,
own
I
artistry. So
I would think when it comes to the record labels, it's going to be a repeat of the Napster and thereafter the Apple Music, where some navigate around, but a lot bit the dust because they
right.
weren't able to adapt. So I would imagine, just hypothesizing here, that some record labels will be able to adapt, but a lot of them are going to bite the dust.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, because it's not only in the music industry, but I think industry in general. Um,
Mhm.
People fear change, man. Like they won't jump on it. They wait for someone else to go get their feet wet to see if they're going to crash or burn. And
Well, I think there's a degree of that, but also let's take the opposite view of things. If your present business model is very successful, i.e.,
Mhm.
very profitable, the idea of going out and completely changing that model, especially for an unknown, is not appealing.
Yeah,
And especially in this day and age with public corporations and CEOs, operating on a 90-day time frame, and that's their horizon. They're not thinking 7 years down the road because
right.
they're going to be gone. They know it. So, I mean, it's like we talk about the banks, and it's like, well, the banks have been getting crushed by fintech for 20 years. Well,
Mm,
why don't they adapt? Well, because for the most part, they were still very profitable. And yeah, they were losing some market share in certain markets like the mortgage industry and stuff as, the apps took over. But they were like, we're still making a boatload of money. But then all of a
right.
sudden, time kept going by and going by and going by. And they became like cable companies. It's like, oh shit, this cord cutting thing is actually real.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. I mean, and this is again, the cream will rise. Like the savvy companies, the savvy entrepreneurs, and people that have that vision of the future. They'll do okay. But
My
you
question
know,
is does what you're talking about within the music realm, does that make, because if it's not, if I'm not mistaken, you get these bands playing in garages, then they go to their local areas and maybe they start getting a regional following and they maybe just bounce around and try to get a little play. The goal is to get a record contract. That's the goal.
hmm,
Could that shift the model where aspiring and newly formed bands and artists, where there's a different model where they don't even give a shit about getting a record contract? It's like, no, I don't want one. So even if the record company came knocking on the door, hey, we want to sign you guys, get the hell out of here. We don't give a crap about you. We're doing our stuff on blockchain. We got our NFTs, we got our music, and we don't need you. I mean, could the dynamic shift where the artists and the bands are empowered to where it's like, yeah, give the middle finger to the record companies.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you think of the way the music industry is set up, when you secure a record contract, the record company has recoupables, and they'll pay for the marketing of it. They'll pay for the production of it, the PR for it. They'll pay for all that, but it needs to be recouped. So the money that artists see from record sales and a record contract, other than their signing bonus, is not massive. It's the most artists make is through touring, merchandise, fan clubs, like things like that. Like that's where the bulk of their money, and if they own their own publishing too. But
I heard on
record
their first
sales is
record they don't make any money. Zero,
barely
none,
anything.
nada.
And then they're tied up for a 3 to 4 album deal. They're paying off the first record for the next 3 ones. So absolutely, it's going to be putting more power. And you see a lot of artists talking about this. This is why NFTs are so attractive to musical artists, because they control the distribution of it. Like they get all of the rights or whatever, or however they set it up, but they don't have to go through a middleman, and they don't need to recoup their money. So someone like Raven, who's really stepping up on Hive and really playing around with her token and getting her music out there, I think will pay dividends down the road, because she's got complete ownership of it. She doesn't have to bow down to the record labels and cater to them. She goes direct to fans, and that's amazing. So speaking of Raven, and we did that contest. Now we still have a week to go, and that was my fault, because I totally messed up the entire like how we were gonna do this. Let me just fix this here. That's better. Oh, hold on, please hold. If you're watching the video and you're in chat, hello Edgar, hello Jimmy. You have just saw me totally butcher the live video there, but now we're good. We're back. So we did this contest. Just post, show the copy and screenshot a picture of some Raven tokens that you purchased, and we'll enter you in a draw. The draw will be actually next week, right? This week Friday, next week Friday. So a week today. That's what we decided, or was it Tuesday?
Yeah, I figure we'll give people the 10 days to buy the token, and between what was posted today,
right,
on today's or on Wednesday's post, but for today's show, and what goes on next Wednesday's post for next Friday's show, those will be the names of whoever has a screenshot up there, and then we'll do a drawing off the top of your head, however you want to do it. You list them all and pick a number out of the air, and whatever it is.
Yep. Perfect. So this week we got people to not only screenshot their entry into it, and you can see it on the CTP chat post as well. Raven put a post up as well describing the contest, and we're going to be giving out some Hive to people. So good luck, and you get some Raven tokens in the process. So today's kind of a mixed bag. There's a few comments, and we'll see here of people saying, "Hey, I took action and grabbed the token." Jimmy's right up there. But then there's some times where there's no question. So we're gonna have to scroll through the comments and pick and choose. So hopefully that's okay for everyone. It's if you hate it, you'll get your money back from the CryptoManiacs podcast subscription.
Yeah. We have a satisfaction money back guarantee.
Yes. Money back guarantee. If
you send us zero, we send you zero back.
We can't give them time back. So we apologize if you are 10 minutes into this podcast and you feel like rage quitting already. We apologize. So,
well, look at it this way. You might as well stick around, because it can only get better, right?
Yes, it can't get any worse.
So, but you didn't mention, and for those who don't know, the prize, if your name is the lucky one, and there is only one winner in this, is 50 Hive. We are giving out 50 smackaroos. It was impromptu. It was off the top of my bald head, and we didn't think it out. We didn't map it out, but it's a little fun thing to help Raven, to get you excited, and somebody's going to walk away with 50 Hive from John and myself.
There you go. Beautiful. So good luck to everyone, and thank you for the support of the token. So Jimmy obviously took action. Bang, he grabbed it. He grabbed 3 Ravens, so he is entered. Vincent and J-Man. Ninja Man, Vincent. We'll just say Vincent. He is he's entered 2. He bought 2, and he's really excited to be entered and wants to support. So thank you for that. So a couple of people there taking action. Here we got our first question from Jay Fang, and he also entered though. So he also entered into the contest. But he asked, my question of the week is about listeners and how voting calculated. I know you mentioned that you want people to buy 100 CTP tokens and stake them on the network. But from what I saw, if you had less than CTP tokens, your maximum voting power would not go up. Am I right about this, or is it more complicated? Well, the more CTP tokens you have, the more it's not voting power. It's, well, I guess it is voting power, but it doesn't increase your vote power. It just increases the amount of times you can vote. So the more CTP you have, the more you stake in listeners, the more times you can vote. So if you have 100 and 100, you have 1,000, you can vote X amount of times. If you have 2,000, you can double that, the amount that you can vote. So the whole idea of CTP tokens, it's not a voting power per se like on Hive. What it is you get the ability to vote more that will share in the rewards of the rewards pool. So that's the idea, is to vote more to get a bigger share of the rewards pool.
Now,
If they all get verified.
is an upvote and a downvote still the same? You're using voting power?
Yes. So if you thumb up or thumb down, it counts the exact same.
So Blaine has enough CTP to keep downvoting all of your posts.
He downvotes me every day. Thankfully, I only send 1 or maybe 2 emails a day, because if not, I would be downvoted to oblivion, because Blaine is like that. So, yeah.
But he only has 1 vote, so he can't screw you. I mean, makes you get 21 votes instead of 20.
Yeah, it's fun.
Although he's a tech guy, maybe he programmed it in there where you get to 19, and whatever vote next, whether it's positive or negative, is counted as a negative. So
yeah, all my upvotes will be counted as downvotes. Yeah.
You get 0 upvotes and 25 downvotes for every email you send out.
It's since we've been like, this is biting our own butt here. Since we've been on the rampage of getting people to be okay with downvoting, you go and look at my Christmas tree, and we call Christmas tree kind of like, the reds and greens of if we got verified or not in our mail history. When this thing started, it's like green everywhere. Like, I'm getting verified. And then for the past couple of weeks since we've been on this, it's like 5 red, 1 green, 4 red, 1 green. Like, I'm just like, everyone's downvoting me, and I get it. I'm the prick. I get it. Yeah. So it's okay. It's fine. Next question. Thank you, Jay Fang, for that. Fiberfrau Kimberly says, I am trying to not get too spread thin, so I'm concentrating on a few of my favorite tokens. My question is, how do others balance their time and effort between real and virtual life? What I mean is, I store more food in my pantry than most of my neighbors, but I also spend more time accumulating crypto. I have tangible skills like sewing and intangible skills like mathematics. I think it is important to have both tangible, like non-perishable foods as the inflation hedge, and intangible things in case I have to flee a war zone like the Ukrainians. I can't eat Leo or listeners, but I also can't transport all my stuff if a disaster strikes. That's interesting. That's a crypto question and kind of world we're living in question. So what about you, man? I mean, I know you. You probably, the only thing you're doing is you're looking for your local McDonald's to get a Big Mac meal, and you're good to go, right? That's your stock up? No?
Well, I'm not that bad, but yeah. I mean, I just go to the supermarket and I got some food. I mean, it's. I guess it depends on where you're at. I mean, being in the United States, you being in Canada, I don't know. Depending on where you are, in some of these countries, where the threat is. Quite frankly, a lot of that is economic, and I don't live in a ritzy area, but I'm far from a poor area. And of course, when you start to enter the scarcity models, it's funny how the distribution always seems to find its way to the more affluent areas and away from the less affluent areas. It certainly there's it's like the old adage, and it's always a rebuttal to the gold bugs. It's like,
Yeah.
well, if everything goes to crap, and things crash, you have to have gold. And it's like, no, you better have food, water, and bullets.
Right.
That's what you want to be invested in, because that's going to be at a premium. I mean, and I've seen it in my own state, when hurricanes have come through. And I mean, I can remember where um, there was a National Guardsman with a semi-automatic strung over his shoulder directing traffic. It
Yeah.
was no cops; it was the National Guard came in, and there was no water. I mean, electricity was out. Anything in the supermarkets that was refrigerated or frozen, ended up being tossed. So um, they could only do cash because there was no credit card machines. It,
Hmm.
it throws you back into, what we consider the Stone Age.
Yeah.
And so it does get to be a very trying situation. And of course, that's, dealing with 4 or 5 days of that. I could not imagine what they're doing in the Ukraine and stuff like that. So, obviously, when you have life, physical, life threatening situations, suddenly your retirement plan doesn't matter.
Right.
Suddenly your crypto holdings don't matter as much. The advantage is, if you do have to pick up and run, the great thing is about crypto is when you get to the other side and log on, if you have your account and username, your key information, you have your crypto.
Right.
As the Russian government and some of the Russian oligarchs found out, you have stuff in banks, you might not have your stuff. Uh, as people found out throughout history, you're transporting gold or diamonds across borders, and you meet the troops on the border, they let you through, but they let you through without your money and your gold and your diamonds.
Right.
And you're basically pillaged at gunpoint. So, I mean, that's just, a very tough situation. And I guess you always work from the bottom up. Maslow's law of Maslow's
Needs, man.
hierarchy,
Right.
where, you got to take care of your food and your water first. Having a bazillion dollars in Bitcoin means absolutely nothing if you got no food, water, and you're living in a war zone. Um, so then your physical safety is at risk. But the other side of that is, A, what happens if things don't get that drastic? Or B, what happens if you do flee and you get to another area? What happens on the other side? Well, suddenly your retirement account, suddenly your cryptocurrency, suddenly when those basic needs are back in fulfillment, suddenly all that other stuff matters, because you want electricity, and so you got to pay the electric bill, and maybe you do want to eat out once in a while, and maybe have an internet bill and need a new laptop and a phone and stuff like
Mm.
that. So that's just where the waffling back and forth. It depends on where you're at. I thankfully don't have that first and foremost right in front of my eyes as a direct threat, like other people probably listen to this broadcast in other parts of the world. I mean, I get the luxury of bitching about the president or about my Congress person or my state senator, or
Hmm.
complaining about the prices of this, that, or the other thing. Um, there's still food in the supermarkets. My water still is running. My electricity is still running. Although a few weeks ago I didn't have electricity, so that
Yeah, you
was
did, man. Yeah, that was
a
fun.
reminder of what it's like. And then I didn't have hot water for 2 days, so that's a
Yeah.
reminder of what it's like. But it's. I guess the answer is you do both. You
Mm.
try to prepare as best you can for both, but as she said, and it goes back to, I mean, now you're getting into life philosophy, but like they say, that you never see a U-Haul behind a Hertz.
Hmm.
We spend all our lives chasing all this stuff,
Accumulating things. Yeah. Right.
and we're going to
Mhm.
end up either in a furnace or in a box in the ground. I mean, we're all guaranteed of ending up dead,
Yeah.
and like they say, you can't take it with you. So I guess that's where values and priorities come from. Now, one other thing that I'd like to add to this, and I know I'm going on a Shakespearean monologue here, John. I do apologize.
It's okay.
The time I spend and I have no physical life. I have no offline life. So, but the time I spend on Hive, yes, I'm accumulating Hive, I'm accumulating Leo, I'm accumulating CTP, I'm accumulating listeners, but I look at it as bigger than that. I mean, this to me, and it's easy to say when you have a little bit of stake, but this to me is much bigger than the money. I don't spend every day on here leaving all these comments and encouraging people and thinking about things and talking about high bonds and thinking all this stuff up just for the return I get. It's because I know it can enrich other people. I know this is a pathway towards freedom. I know, I believe I know the problems with the existing banking and financial system, at least some of the core issues there. I believe crypto can solve it. And so it becomes kind of like, I don't know, maybe mission is the right word. I don't know what the right word is, John, but it really becomes a passion and a drive that it's like, yes, I like getting rewards. Yes, I'm one of the most rewarded authors on Hive. Yes, it makes it easier to write a 1,500 word article or 2,000 word article like I did this morning. But it's more than that. It's just, I know that we all have a role to play. We all have a hand in the success here. These are all cooperatives. If you have any token or any coin staked, if you have any Hive power, guess what? You have a financial interest in Hive. And the
Yeah.
success of Hive can financially benefit you and then benefit you other ways, emotionally, intellectually, with passion, with drive. And that's what I see from people like Jay Fang, who leaves, 500, 600 comments a week. That's what I see
Yeah.
from you and Blaine, who go through and try to expand CTP and what you're building there. That's what I see from, Starkers, and they call me Dan, and the CTT and the Speak Network guys. I don't know which they are anymore, but the Speak Network guys. I mean, they
Yeah.
put so much time, effort, and money, and now Dan's building out Ragnarok, costing them more time and effort and money. And from what I understand, I mean, the numbers that these guys have been putting out, they obviously had some resources to begin with. So they could have just said, you know what, I'll just take my money and I'll just try to make more money, and I'll stake it. I'll get a nice ROI. I'll just do DeFi. But they're out there pushing this stuff and trying to make a difference. And, Dan's out there studying all this crypto stuff so we can talk about POS and POW and DPoS and game theory and all this other stuff that he does in his videos. And anybody who listens to that, it's like we're all benefited because of the time, effort that he puts in. Do his post do wonderfully? Yeah, he gets 300-400 dollars in upvotes every time. I mean, he doesn't post every day, but when he does, he gets huge upvotes. But he doesn't care about that. I'm sure it's nice for him, but that's not what's driving him. I mean, the drive for him was what the difference he can make. And they're on the immutability and the censorship resistance. That is what's driving those two. And for me, it's being a part of that and having that passion online that we can have a hand in creating Web 3.0, the next generation internet. And the biggest goal for me is freedom for people. Give people the ability to be free financially, control of their money, control of their social media activity, control of all their stuff, control of their account. That's what it's about to me. Okay, Shakespeare's.
That was like
We
you
didn't
get
have any
the
questions, and we had to fill some time.
yeah.
We're going to have to save some questions for next week.
Oh no, we got. I actually got. It's funny. I got questions coming in on my phone, and I'll explain to you in a second. But I just wanted to touch on kind of what you were mentioning, how we get into life and philosophy and all this stuff. Just going back to Fiberfrow's comment. I totally agree with you. You said you have a little bit of everything, right? You kind of it's not spreading yourself too thin, but you touch on everything. But something I know about Fiberfrow, she's a woman of faith. So I think that what you have, your faith, your whatever it is that you have, I know what she believes in, and prayer is important for her. So I think that that's important too for her. But having all of that little bit and not spreading yourself too thin, it's a really good mix. Because I personally have bought packages of water and MREs and stuff like that, and I'm sitting there, kind of what you said in the comment, like, well, what am I going to do with this? What, am I going to put a U-Haul, like trail, put it all in a U-Haul and just drive around the country and hope for the nuclear, apocalypse to not come? Like it. So, a little bit of everything.
Well, and the other thing that I want to add on it, okay, Shakespeare coming back. Also, I mean, it's important to be aware, but you have to be careful of which rabbit holes you're going down and what you're constantly being exposed to. I get this all the time in my economic stuff, my macroeconomic analysis and research. And what happens, especially with social media, is if you watch like a video on YouTube, all of a sudden you're just bombarded with videos of that same message.
Right.
And it's very easy to get yourself, because there are a lot of people put out the total doom and gloom. And I've been hearing it with the economics and the monetary system for 30 years since I got out of school. Oh, well, the dollar's going to collapse. The dollar's going to end. The system's going to collapse. And it's like, well, we had a collapse 2 years ago. That was a pretty good economic collapse. And, it wasn't the end of the world. Not saying that we can't have another Great Depression type situation. We certainly could. So you have to be aware of that. You have to understand there are black swans out there. There are people who are in power who, especially in the West right now, I believe all our leadership kind of oscillates between completely inept and psychopaths, and probably a combination of both. Yeah. So you have to be aware, but you don't want to have all this stuff coming in and just get flooded with kumbaya and everything's great, everything's wonderful. Oh, this is all terrific. But at the same time, you can't buy into, oh, well, the world's going to come to an end and the U.S. and China are going to go into nuclear war and Putin's going to do this, that, and the other thing. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm not saying that, there's not bad shit that doesn't happen out there. It does. But, we just have to keep our mind free of a lot of that stuff and engage in our day-to-day stuff while, keeping an eye on what's going on if you prepare. But like you said, okay, John, very good. You bought 148 cases of water. If you have to hijack your ass out of there and run, what do you do with that? I mean, it's like, sorry, honey, we got to take the water. Leave the kids. We don't need them anyway. More water for us. I mean, it's, and as a person of faith, if you will, sometimes it's like you just have to turn things over to, whatever the greater thing than us little humans are running around saying, there is a point where there is a little bit of destiny or fatism to this. I mean, we're all going to die. It's like, am I going to die peacefully in my sleep at 102? Am I going to die of a heart attack at 57? Am I going to get hit by a bus, or is Putin going to drop a missile on me?
You get right on your front doorstep. It's coming.
I mean, either way, I'm going to be dead in 50 years anyway, probably. So, I mean, it's, something that always happens. So it's like humans seem to be the only ones afraid of death. Have you noticed that? Like if you have a cat or a dog and they're dying, they don't seem to fear it. They're just like, okay, humans, we obsess over it and we fret about it. It's like,
this is funny because this question actually came in from a buddy of mine who text messaged me about an hour before the show. And he's like, I got a question. Why is crypto down when inflation is up? I thought it was supposed to be a hedge against printing money. And then he put all these little like clown faces, smileys after it, because me and him go back and forth. He is totally stocks and bonds and everything, and I'm telling him to get into crypto. So that's his question, but it's more of a shot at me. What would you say to that? Why is crypto down when inflation?
Well, because it's bullshit, and that's put out by the Bitcoin maximalists.
That's literally what I told him. I said it's all bullshit and it's bad for you.
It's wow. Crypto is not a safe haven at this point. I mean, it's perfectly obvious. It's a risk-off trade. So when people are taking risk off the table, crypto gets hammered, and crypto
Mm,
actually correlates very well with the tech stocks because they're certainly a risk off trade.
mm,
So your stocks are going to get crushed, especially your high flyers, your high PE stocks. They're going to get crushed, and so will crypto. However, when it's a risk on trade and money's moving into the riskier assets and going for the return, crypto will do very, very well. So,
right.
that's where this idea of the hedge of inflation, and also if he's a bond guy, he ought to know he's calling out bullshit, because if he can read the yield curve, obviously the long end of both the US Treasury yield curve and the LIBOR yield curve, the LIBOR started in December, the US yield curve started last month, but both of the long end of the yield curve of both of those is
Mm,
saying there is no long-term inflation and economic growth on the horizon. In fact, they're saying because it's inverted, it actually sucks and the Fed's fucking up. So,
mhm,
if he's a bond guy, learn to read the yield curve, and that'll tell you that what we're seeing now is, yes, a short-term phenomenon, and you see that in the front end of the yield curve, but the long end of the yield curve is telling us the exact opposite story. But anybody who says that cryptocurrency is a hedge against inflation is just basically, not paying attention. It's a risk on, risk off trade, and when the flight of safety takes place, crypto is going to get killed. That's just the way it
mm,
is.
yep. Yakingo1 has got a question. Great initiative for the contest. My question is about the future of the PHBD PUSDC pool. How do you think it can affect the Hive ecosystem and the value of the token?
Well, if it's successful, it'll be a huge help, because right now with HBD, we obviously have a liquidity issue. It's a major, major issue. Uh, if you've been on chain and floating around Leo Finance, I mean, Cal's out there trying to buy a significant stake. I saw it on Discord. Neil McSpadden's out there trying to get a significant stake. And you just can't put your hands on the HBD. It's not on the exchanges. It's just not around. And the problem is there's 9.5 million HBD floating outside the Dow, and
Mm,
a lot of that is actually on Upbit. It's on the Korean exchange. So we need access to liquidity. So PHBD could be that access if it gets filled. If it can get to the 2.5 million HBD in there, or PHBD in there, which is the big question, and then you have another 2.5 million USDC coupled with it, that'll create a liquidity pool that at least can allow people to bring whatever their money is, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's Ethereum, whatever they're converting, get it on Polygon
mm,
and get the PHBD, and then throw that over to Hive. So you're getting a bridge from Polygon directly to Hive and back. Uh, and then the HBD can go into the savings and start to create 20% more HBD every year to help with the distribution.
mm,
I think inevitably, if this project takes off, by the project I mean the HBD and savings, if this takes off, the only way to get enough HBD out there to fill the liquidity need is through the conversion mechanism. And so somebody at some point in time is going to have to really take a look at converting the Hive to HBD, which of course then that will, in theory, will reduce the amount of Hive out there, and in theory could increase the demand for Hive, which would push the price of Hive up. So,
mm,
it's these are all different moving parts at the same time, and it seems like we're screwed in all these different areas, and quite frankly we are. But it's like one improvement in one area has tangible results in the other area, and it's just kind of leveraging the progress in each area to help things move along so that, we can start to make the changes or updates that are needed to keep this thing growing. And, you know, PHBD, I think, is the starting point. I mean, you can question whether the design of it is ideal. I certainly have reservations about that, but, we'll see what happens.
There you go. Hope that helps. Thanks for the question. Best start is up. John entered the contest. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. What did he purchase? I can't see there. 5 tokens. So there you go. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. DevPress is up. He made a comment here about Raven. Decided to use Hive instead of Ethereum. Thought it was great. And then they got a question. He said, this relates to the List Nerds. Can we promote our content, which is outside of Hive, on List Nerds, like a blog, a YouTube, or a library video? I mean, that would be super cool for generating traffic. Abso-freaking-lutely. Yes, that's actually how List Nerds was first designed. Posting your Hive blog is actually the idea of the List Nerds community. So posting Hive content was a List Nerds community thing. That when we created List Nerds, the whole purpose was a mailer. So you would promote your video, you'd promote your lead capture page, you promote a blog post, you promote a business opportunity, some of those awful business opportunities that you see in List Nerds right now. But yes, absolutely. It's a fantastic way to generate traffic. And you know that the traffic is legit. It's not manufactured. So that's what's really cool about that. You get, 50 to 60 people. That's 50 and 60 unique people coming to your site. Do that. Pay for 50 to 60 unique people to come to your site via Google. See how much it costs, depending on your keywords. So yes, absolutely, DevPress. Please do use List Nerds that way. Now, use it tactfully. Don't go, hey, I got a great thing that'll make you $1 million, buy my stuff. That's probably not going to work. But if you, like I always say, pull people to what you're talking about, promoting a video, a social media link, a blog post, something that you're trying to pull to create the conversation, that's when beautiful things happen. So, absolutely. Great question.
Well, for me, I think I know all the major landing pages and all that shit now, which I knew none of it when I started on List Nerds, which shows that people are just passing around the same crap. And, maybe there's some legitimacy to it. I'm not saying that, but, after seeing your landing page thing about 10 times, and that's all you've been sending out, I'm using John's advice and using the downvote button. I upvote Hive content, whatever front end people use. I will also say I upvote people's personal blogs that are not on Hive. So I've seen a few people, not a ton, but a few people have linked. I presume it's their stuff. I don't even know if it's their stuff, but whatever it is, they're linking to articles about health or nutrition or whatever. And to me, that's cool because they're legitimate articles. Whether it's their stuff or somebody else's stuff, really doesn't matter to me. It's a legitimate blog. It's a legitimate story. It's a legitimate site. It's, I give those upvotes. And so absolutely, if you got a blog that's not on Hive, or you do a YouTube, you do have a YouTube channel and you want to link to a YouTube video, or even if it's not your stuff and you just have a news article or some type of article that you feel is important and you send that on List Nerds and it ends up in my mailbox, like John said, I will click through it. I click through every email I get. Right. And, if it is something like that, I'll upvote it because, you're spreading around information and knowledge and, whether it's your stuff or somebody else's stuff, it's like, Jimmy does where he sends out and Raymond Smeek does. They send out stuff that isn't theirs on Hive. Well, if somebody sends out, a blog, even if it's a well-known one, like, something from Raoul Pal or something from hell, if somebody said something off Cointelegraph, if they felt it was important, I'd probably give that an upvote on List Nerds. Why not? So, I think it's, I understand the business building, but if we understand the concept of the, not concept, if we understand the evolution of listeners, it's really presented us with the rewards are from the activity. So yeah, you can send out, make $10,802 in 29 and a half days.
Yeah.
And if you get somebody to sign up, then you'll get, your affiliate commission or whatever. But you're going to get a downvote. But if you send out an article from somebody's blog on WordPress or whatever that you find interesting, just in the fact of doing that, if you get enough people upvote you, which you should, because there's nothing, unless it's just really an offensive topic, you should get your upvotes. You get rewarded for doing that. You get compensated. You get paid. So the reward is in the action. And as we said on the show with Jimmy, driving people to the point where you get them to take action to buy something from you, that's how you get monetized traditionally. Now you get monetized in the fact of trying to drive them to that point. So even if you don't drive them to the point to monetize them, you just drive them to the point of go to somebody else's WordPress blog and read an article, you could be monetized. That's the magic in it. So again, another Shakespearean
you're on point today, man. You got
it's I think I would like to see more of that stuff. Absolutely. Who said that? DevPress. Absolutely do that. Send out all kinds of stuff. If it's your own stuff, if it's other people's stuff. If you find it interesting, send it out. And I mean, Eco Alex, he's showing up. I mean, he does a lot of his stuff on from Hive, but that guy writes about topics I don't typically come across. And I don't think there's a email I got from him that I did not upvote. Same with Miss Vegas, I think it is. Haven't got anything from her that I haven't upvoted. I mean, that's the type of stuff that is really ideal for listeners. If you're sharing about yourself, or you're sharing something that interests you, or you want to promote health or nutrition or whatever, that's cool. I mean, send that stuff out, and certainly I'll upvote you, and I'm sure John would, and other people.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for the question, DevPress. Verbal Shadow has entered the contest. Put me in, coach. Purchasing a Raven token. Thank you for that. Next up, we've got Arcane. He says, what effect do you think raising the interest rate from 20% on HBD will have? I have read posts saying that it's going to hurt the value of Hive token because people will convert them to HBD, and I have read posts saying the exact opposite. What is your opinion?
No, that's absurd. Because first off, most of your major players aren't going to be powering down to convert Hive to HBD. Mm-hmm. The second thing is yes, HBD is very aggressive on a stable coin. So when you have a stable coin and you're earning 20%, that's wonderful. Hive is at 90 cents. What happens if Hive goes to $1.80?
Right.
That's 100% gain. So what are people going to do? They are going to power down their Hive to get into HBD to earn 20% when the price of Hive could 5x. Most people who are holding significant amounts of Hive, and by significant amounts, I mean more than like 250, most of them believe in the long-term prospect of Hive. So why would you go for a 20% return when you can have a possible 500% return? Plus, having Hive power gives you certain things. It gives you the ability to engage through resource credits. It gives you influence. You can vote on witnesses. You can vote on proposals, and you have a higher degree of standing. And we also know, listen, the higher your account is, the more people look up to you. So if you take your 10,000 Hive and power it down to 1,000, and then go throw that in HBD, that might be a nice move to make 20%. You give up the potential upside, but also people will, when they look at your account, will look at it differently. I mean, that's just the way it is. So, and then the idea is the more Hive that does get converted, the more that we will see the total float reduce, you could get, and most likely will get, a deflationary effect on the Hive token itself. The value is just actually being moved from Hive to HBD, so it's not being lost; it's just being transferred. Um, but then we know, and so in theory, everything should remain equal. But we know markets don't operate in theory; they operate how they want. And so when there's less float, all of a sudden more buying pressure, things go up to a much greater degree than they would have. So I think we've already seen the early stages. There's not a lot of people powering down. And if you are powering down, that's fine. I don't object to the 20%. I mean, I think it's very smart, and having a lot of your portfolio or some of your portfolio in it is a very smart idea. But I think the fact is, um, you're missing a potential upside of 100%, even 1,000%. And many of us, I know John is with me on this. I mean, we don't think $5 Hive is absurd. We don't think $10 Hive is absurd. So you're going to give that potential upside up for 20%. That's the question everybody in the investor's dilemma that everybody has.
We've got a whole bunch of comments in the chat. First, Alex Rourke said, lots of Shakespeare going on today. And I said, yes, there's definitely a lot. Then we had, I'll touch on Chris's question here, but first, Raymond is in, our guest on Tuesday. He's on Facebook, and he said, you guys have a shitstorm coming your way next week. So stay tuned for the 19th. It should be.
Is that a good or a bad thing? I mean, should we be excited or scared?
I'm a little of both there. Yeah. And Chris just touched on this topic, kind of what DevPress was saying. He says he does not hijack other people's stuff because he thinks there's a thin line between promoting other people's stuff and stealing content. He'll upvote original content. Yeah, but on Listeners, if someone's going to promote me and my blog post, I'm all for it. If I see an awesome blog post, I'm going to promote it. Because just like Tash said, you're not stealing content. You're actually promoting content. You're not saying this is mine. Most of the stuff I see where people are promoting other people's stuff is, this is an awesome post. I saw this on Hive, and you guys got to read this. This is just amazing. So it's curating. You're basically curating on Listeners. That's what that would be. Because you're getting rewarded for doing it. You share good stuff on Listeners, you're going to get upvotes. But definitely like plagiarizing and stuff like that, that's a whole other ball game. Absolutely. Yeah. That stuff gets the Bozak, as the kids said back in the 90s. It's okay to promote. If Chris does an amazing post, I'll promote it. He gets the traffic, he gets the upvotes on the post, more awareness to his brand. He wins. I win by promoting it, using my resources on Listeners to promote it.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head what you were saying earlier. I mean, first off, on Hive, if somebody sends out one of your blog posts and you get the traffic that person generates from their listener's email goes to your blog post, and any upvotes that are placed there, that person does not get. You get the upvotes. And their person's not claiming it as your own. They're not copy and pasting your stuff. They're not claiming it as their own. So you get the benefit of financially of any upvotes that come from that. But going offsite, and this is a very interesting idea, but you with your background, you hit the nail on the head. If Jimmy goes and grabs somebody's WordPress blog and sends it out, and that generates 50 or 60 click-throughs, that person just got 50 or 60 click-throughs that
traffic.
Well, there's no upvoting on WordPress. There is a monetary value when you look at generating traffic through the Google ads and stuff like that. And so Jimmy just took it upon himself as an example to send this out and to send traffic to this WordPress blog to a person. He may or may not have any idea who that person is. It may just be something Jimmy likes and is promoting it. Now, if Jimmy says, go over to my blog, and it's like, wait a minute, Jimmy, your hair follicles and do not match Raoul Pal. You're not Raoul Pal. Why are you trying to steal his crap? That I think is the difference. And I think that's what Chris is talking about. If people are trying to pass stuff off as their own, that's not kosher. But if I send something out from ESPN or NBC News or some celebrity or somebody who's well known, a Coin Telegraph. I mean, obviously, I'm not passing this stuff off as my own. I'm just sharing with the community. This is something I thought was pretty good.
You can get value from this.
Yeah. And for some of these other blogs, Chris, I was mentioning, I remember somebody was sending out some stuff on health. I don't know if it's their blog or not. I didn't really read enough of the email to understand what they were trying to were they promoting it as their own or were they not? And at the end of the day, I don't think it really matters because I reward them for their promotion. I wasn't rewarding them for putting together the article. That is votes on Hive. That's votes through CTP Leo Finance. But your promotion, hey, you promoted a pretty good piece of content. I'll upvote you. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with these landing pages, but I'll downvote somebody who sent out the same damn landing page the last 8 days. It's like there may not be anything wrong with the landing page, but I'm going to downvote and not reward you. I'm going to take away from your rewards or whatever you want to say because of your promotion or your lack thereof, not necessarily the quality of what you're sending out, because maybe it's a great landing page. But by the 8th day in a row, I'm tired of it.
Yep. Absolutely. Good stuff. Hope that helps, Chris. And thank you for the question. And the comment. R. Kaz says, I love the idea to support great artists and token purchase. I'm really interested how all this will happen. They purchased a token there, so they're entered. GG Bit says, this is actually really cool. I'm curious how it will all pan out. Huge congrats on taking the initiative. And then we have a question from a Mr. Taskmaster 4450 LE. This is the Leo account of the good sir, and he wants to know why there is no E on the end of Blaine's name. If you want to see Blaine rage, put an E at the end of it. It's pretty funny. It's actually pretty funny.
Yeah, I bet sometimes you just send it over just to set them off.
Just to do it. And I think people do it just to see him turn red. It's pretty funny. It's like if someone calls me John and puts an H in the John, right? It's like
that was going to be my question next week. How come there's no H in John?
Because I'm Jonathan. Jonathan is my name, not John. So I'm not. I'm named after the loyal friend in the Bible, not the Baptist and the Revelator.
Not the toilet.
Yeah, not the toilet. Exactly. Yes, he is living dangerously, Chris. Yes, he is. Yes.
Hey, I even resisted the opportunity to attack Canada when you put it on a pedestal. So give me a break. I was nice to Canada today. I made a compliment last week about Rush.
I know Canadian legends. There you go.
Absolutely, one of the best rock bands anywhere in the world.
Geddy Lee, those glasses. There you
Geddy
go.
Lee is an innovative genius, and Neil Peart, as I said, is my opinion, was the best drummer of all time. And they're all they're from Canada. Neil Peart is no longer with us, sadly.
Yes, sure. Yes. You're welcome for producing great content. We also have Justin Bieber, if you are interested as well, for Canadian quality. Yeah.
Well, okay. I mean, we had the boy band, so I mean, what can we say? I mean, I can't attack you on that. Good God, you look at what we put together. So
yeah. So we'll close up with Kitty Girl. She purchased some tokens here, so she's entered. But then Tokenized Society's got the question that will end off this week. Hey Maniacs, happy Easter in advance. Is there something, if it's something you guys celebrate? There's something I've been wondering for a while now. Hive is a decentralized network, and as such, it doesn't belong to one person or institution of any sort. But what about the Hive logo? Does it belong to someone? Can anyone use it to make Hive merch? For example, are there any rules or guidelines regarding the use of the Hive brand? If there is, I have been sued to no end because I've printed the Hive logo out on everything. As far as I know, it's free to use. It's owned by the community. You can reproduce it, you can use it, you can tattoo it on you if you want. As far as I know, maybe Tass knows a little something different on that.
I don't know anything different. I would surmise you are correct. I would imagine it was designed and probably thrown out there under an MIT license or something like that.
Right.
So my bigger question, and I'll ask the question: Who owns High Block? Was that
Oh
funded
yeah,
through?
yeah,
Was that through community funded? I mean, is that? I know Block Trades has people working on it, but is that being done through just the community funding he gets?
mm,
Because the question obviously is if they threw up advertising on there, could that be used to direct money into Hive and maybe as incentive to help the ROI on staking Hive as high power? Obviously, if it's a privately owned site, granted it's open source, but Hive
yeah,
Blog itself could be private, then obviously that is out the window, just like Peak D is private.
yeah,
Uh, Leo Finance is directing it towards their stakeholders, the advertising. It's just a
right.
question that I was wondering: is Hive Blog, owned by the community? Was it set up by the community, or is it, just somebody's? Is it, property of Block Trades or property of somebody? Obviously, somebody has to own the Hive IO and the Hive.blog URL, but
Right.
that may just be an administrative thing. Um, but I believe the logos are open source or probably under an MIT license or something like that.
Yeah, free to
They
use
didn't
license
trademark
and
it.
stuff. Yeah. There you go.
And I think it's important. I hope I hope content, graphic artist content. I know Leo Finance does very well. They have a spot in their Discord where you can go and you can get logos and stuff like that they've designed. And
Mm,
I hope some of the more graphically inclined people on here, we all have a role to play, and mine, I guess, is leaving a lot of comments and engaging because I don't have a lot of talents, and so that's one of them. But those
yeah.
who are graphically inclined, and especially in this day with PowerPoint and some of the not PowerPoint, um, what else?
Say Paint Shop Pro. I dare you. No.
Not Paint, well, Photoshop,
Oh,
and some of these other graphic.
MS Paint. Yeah.
What?
MS Paint. You're going back in time. No,
I
not
still
funny.
I use Paint. it, it it's 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 very good for very simple things like taking a web page, you take a picture, you put it in there, and you crop it and
Resize it. Yep.
save it.
Yeah.
Well, I
Same with me.
don't usually resize it, but yeah, you could resize it, but I don't. I don't even go that far. I probably should because some of my things are out of kilt. But anyway, as I was saying, if you're graphically inclined, you could produce some stuff, and that would be very good because that's a great way of getting SEO traffic. Because if we take those logos and we start to time the Hive or Leo Finance or CTP, and we get
Mhm.
them out there and they get in blog posts that get some type of ranking, and then when people go into that keyword and hit images, there's your image. And
Right.
if
Yeah.
that's something that can just be taken and reused, that would be great. And I love these people who create more stuff about uh, HBD and different things like that. And now hopefully
Mhm.
some people are putting together stuff on Hive bonds or Hive savings bonds. Just neat stuff.
Yep. Absolutely. Beautiful things.
Chris
That's
says he
it,
loves
guys.
the graphics, but Canva makes him
Yeah.
look like a pro.
Canva is the creator's savior. It
Is it? I don't even know
definitely
what that is. You
Canva's
what?
fantastic.
Well,
Yeah.
I look. Is it easy to use and like good for a
I
dummy
you
like me?
all my headers, every single one of my blog headers is created on Canva. It's and I pay for Canva Pro, which is like $12, and I have access to like 50,000 pieces of clip art royalty free. So to me, it's no brainer. Yeah. Canva.com. It's amazing.
I'll have to look at that. You might actually get me to evolve from MS Paint.
Oh, dude, I'm saying, there you go. That's it, guys. We made it through another week of content. Thank you. The questions worked out perfectly, actually, and we had some Shakespearean answers from tasks today, which was great. And thank you all for coming by. So have a great weekend.
And on Tuesday, we have Raymond
Raymond,
Speaks, and
Raymond,
John and I will have to spend 4 days deciding where we should look forward to this or dread it, since we
yes,
don't know what the hell you guys have a storm coming means. And he just left it and ran. I mean, typical
did,
Raymond.
yeah. He just said you guys don't know what's coming, and then left. Yeah,
Yeah, and
great. I
left.
love it.
No
Yeah,
elaboration. No,
yeah, it's fine. It's okay. It's good. It's okay. And if you have not yet entered the Raven contest, be sure to check out the account. Alex asked in Vim what the account was, and it's at CTP Chat for that contest, and we'll update that throughout the weekend and going into the week 2 to remind you guys that that's going on. And a week today, we'll do the draw.
And what's the schedule? What do we have on tap? We got Raymond on Tuesday.
And then we got the movie guys coming back, right? Deltron on the 26th. And then you got some people in May already, I think, don't you?
Elindos is
Elindos. Yes.
Is in May. Somebody asked for Elindos, and much in the Maniac style, you ask, and we do our best to deliver. And since people are interested in hearing about Elindos, we have him coming up in May. I think it's the second Tuesday. I forget.
And if we can't fill spots, you got to deal with the bald guys. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, we're even though both of us have faces for radio, we still put it on video.
I know, it's great. This is why we get so many downvotes and listeners. Guys, thank you very much for coming. Make sure you subscribe to all on your favorite podcast networks. We're on Spotify. We're also on Apple Podcasts. And then watch for us on the Hive blockchain throughout the week. Have a great weekend.
And by the way, one other thing.
One other thing. Shakespeare.
No, you can, through those apps, you can stream Satoshis. Brian of London, you can stream Satoshis, and they all go to John because he doesn't share them, and he gets the Hive or the HBD in his wallet, and that's his kid's college fund. So stream those Satoshis so you can help make John's kids smarter than they already are.
Exactly. Perfect. Have a great weekend, guys. We'll see you on Tuesday.